What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, good people? And welcome to the Grind and Grace podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Charles Hopkins,
And Michael Hillman.
and together we are Grind and Grace. He's all grind and I'm Grace, baby. What's up? No, I'm just kidding. That's not how it works. There's no grinding. He's not grinding on Grace. It's just grind and it's Grace. Let's get it. Beautiful symphony, right?
All right. So today's topic that we're kicking off our debut podcast or webcast, whatever it's called, is establishing boundaries. And so there's different types of boundaries. You got boundaries with clients, you got boundaries with family. So, we're going to discuss it all, but we're going to talk about it from a very real perspective on things that we experience on a day in and day out basis.
Absolutely.
And just go from there. So, me and Charles were actually talking on the phone earlier today, which kind of inspired this podcast today. And but we do use everything and we channel everything through Chat GPT, which has been instrumental in us producing this podcast.
Absolutely.
So shout out to Chat GPT for coming out with that open AI. And, that actually is the whole basis of this podcast. It designed our whole plan. So give us some feedback and tell us what you think. So let's go back to what we were talking about earlier today, Charles, with establishing those boundaries, because you were sharing with me some issues that you were having, where you I get overpromised some things, not
Absolutely.
knowing the real issue at hand. So yeah, go ahead and expand on that.
Absolutely. Well, ultimately, it's like this, right? Like many of you, especially if you're a business owner out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you put your word on the line, right? You tell somebody, hey, consider it done. You start having a discussion, and maybe they only reveal so much. Now, I don't know about you guys, and Michael is better at this than I am, but sometimes I'll say I'll commit to something, and then once I say that, hey, it's a deal is a deal, and I don't go back on that. And what I mean by that is, for example, I help people with strategic tax planning. Literally help people save thousands in order to build wealth faster. My company name is Wealth by Taxes. And as I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, hey, it's going to be like a certain percentage of your tax savings is going to be my fee. Now, assuming that he already has a clear set of books and financials, all I have to do is come in, put some strategies together, and then watch him step into his full savings. However, instead, when I go to look at his books, everything is out of order. Nothing is finalized. And guess what? Now I have to do, most people keep up with their books year round. Now I
Yeah.
have to go back past, like a year later and do a year's worth of work in a matter of a week or two. And by the way, I didn't tell him I was going to charge for that. So I feel bad or weird to come back on the back end and be like, oh, by the way, I know I said it's going to be a percentage of your savings, but I also got to charge you for this other thing too.
Now you got to eat it at that point.
I got to eat it at that point. And that's the
Yeah.
only thing. It's just like, so I took a break from running a firm and I just went out to just grow, literally learn from the best in the industry and just say, how do I scale a business properly? And in that break, I think I forgot the right questions to ask, or I forgot the nuances behind this. It's not just black and white, like, hey, it's this and it's that. So that was a challenge. And now as a result, I end up doing so much work for free. And I kind of made that same deal with about 6 different people. And 6 people
Oh
weren't
man.
that bad, except I know, right? But the biggest challenge is they have multiple entities, multiple different partnership returns. So now I have like 30 something returns between 6 people and none of their financials are ready. So
Yeah.
boundaries, boundaries.
Yeah. And
How
so
would you handle this?
some of the feedback that I gave Charles, because I actually have a similar situation and some things I learned through that. But the feedback I gave him was, when things change, sometimes you got to go back and change things back on them as well. And nothing is written in stone when
Yeah.
it comes to business or in life in general, unless it's already done. Because you can't redo the past, but you can prevent having the same problem in the future.
That's
And you can make the current circumstance be made aware just through clear communication.
good.
And bringing it to that client's attention, that and this only in this specific instance, when you don't mind losing the business if it comes up. Now, if you're concerned about losing the business, it's a little bit more difficult to go back and make those changes. But I mean, in your circumstance, where if you did lose the business, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And
Right.
so going back to that client and letting them know what transpired when you looked at all the data that they presented to you, and the mess that it was, and the extra work that it's going to cause. Even if you still chose to do it for free, you could set their expectations like, this is not going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Like, this is a good 40, 50 hours worth of work, and I can't dedicate all that time to just you.
Right.
And you
That's
know
hard to say though, because everyone in the tax industry, they wanted their stuff yesterday. Tax returns
true.
help you qualify for funding. Tax returns help you qualify for working capital. Buying a home, buying a piece of land, buying the next property. Everyone wants to see your returns. So he's feeling like, I needed this yesterday, and what's the holdup? And
Yeah.
I did say, well, hey, not only are these advanced tax strategies that take a while to fully, implement, but I also have to figure out what your actual numbers were by going in, extracting all your bank transactions and line by line categorizing each one, and then
Wow.
putting that into a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet from raw data.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, I do my own books, and I know that's a lot of work.
definitely.
And not having insight to what the charges are, I wouldn't be able to do it blindly on someone else's book. I can't even believe you're able to do that. So
Well, I can do it about 95% accuracy because you
yeah,
see some of the same vendors out here, but then the other five, and I'll say 90 to 95%. So that other 5 to 10%, it's me collaborating with the client to say, hey, it says check 1411. What do you typically write checks for? This one says $15,000. And then, that's when you start to collab with the client on things that are unclear. But for the
oh
most
yeah,
part, you can do most of the stuff and then come back and say, well, hey, I have some items I have questions on for you.
yeah. So like, just as an offshoot, uh, because that's a professional boundary that has to be set.
Right.
Like, my issues come more on the personal boundary side, where I work out of a home office, and when the whole family is here, it seems like impossible to let people know, like, this is, daddy's working, like, you can't come climb and sit on my seat, and I'm on a phone call. And it's rather impossible to set a boundary with a 3-year-old. So but even with the older ones, like, even all the way to my wife, setting those boundaries, uh, it took years of her being here, and understanding my workflow, and understanding the quiet time I needed. So, like, instead of, I even had instances where I may have gave her an ugly face for, like, interrupting me on a phone call. It was it wasn't intentional. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm on the call.
I get it.
Definitely, if it's a call that you don't want to be on in the
Right.
first place.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like, just you know later on in the evening, after dinner or something like that, when the emotion of the event has gone down, I just said, I'm sorry and how that transpired, and when I'm working, if you can treat it like I'm not at home, and if you need to interact with me, shoot me a message and I'll come out to you instead of
Mm,
you coming
mm,
to me. And that helped a lot.
that's
And
good.
then I actually went the opposite, like, oh, I missed you coming to visit me.
Yeah, yeah. Feeling
But
lonely in
get
there.
lonely back here. But
Seriously.
yeah, like, I mean, all boundaries can't be established like right off the bat. Sometimes you have to um, build them up over time. And unfortunately, in a professional situation, that's not always the case. You don't always have that leeway to build over time unless it's a long-term client. Like,
Right.
maybe if this client that was a problem was to come back next year, the boundary could be established by that time. It
Huh.
just won't be established right off the bat.
Right.
But yeah,
I agree. I agree.
yeah,
So yeah, no, that sounds good. And you speak about personal boundaries. You know, I've personally done a lot of business with friends, family, and even acquaintances, like from church and various things like that. In the tax industry, everyone has to do taxes. And
yeah,
so, the biggest boundary I've run into is, and let me know if you've experienced anything like this, but having to serve somebody, and most people, like your standard client, is going to go through my team and then follow the guidelines, and start to book an appointment, and then we work on an appointment basis to help serve you. Well, when it's your friend and they already have your number, they just start calling you. No appointment, no nothing. They're like, hey, I need this, and by the way, I need it right now. And that's not how it works. And I've
yeah.
even to go through and be like, "Ugh, I don't know, my friend. Like, I thought about doing this. I haven't done it yet, but creating a video, and when
A
someone,
video like this.
no, yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I could just capture this,
Everybody watch this. Yeah.
watch this, and it's like, and it's just gonna simply say, "Hey, congratulations, you and I decided to do business together, and we're friends. So here are the ground rules in order for you to have the best experience possible. Rule number,"
Oh man.
and then
Yeah.
to start going down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's so formal of you. But I mean, a good example is that you were my client with your tax accounting firm, and you always said that, like, oh, you're being so professional with it. Like, why are you being so formal? And I said, I keep everything completely separate. So if you calling me for business matters, it's business.
Yep.
And I was like, and the same thing when I use you for taxes. I was
Hmm.
like, I don't want a favor. I want to pay the full rate of whatever your clients pay, because that's going to be my expectation of you as well. So, like,
Right.
if I get something for free, then I get free type work. But if
Exactly.
I pay the full thing, I can put the demand of full pay, type work.
Exactly right. Because if
And
somebody
so,
is free, you're not going to prioritize them over a paying client. You're right.
exactly. And if a paying client can have demands of saying, where's my tax paperwork? Why isn't it done? But a free person can't do that. I mean, they can say it, but, like, there's
What is
no
free?
accountability
Exactly.
accountability to free. And
Exactly.
so I told you right off the bat, I was like, if I'm going to help you out on in an IT perspective, then we're going to handle this as a complete business transaction.
Mhm.
And we handled it. I think that was a very good example on how to handle things professionally, uh, and still maintain our personal relationship, and nothing ever overlapped.